This is Roy from Arena Mini 4-Wheel Drive Club, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And today I'm going to show you guys about my Uncut MS chassis suspension version 2. And the version 2 is using the regular MS chassis front and the back. So the different between version 1 and the version 2, of course the version 1 is using the bumperless MS chassis, which means this one, but today we are going to talk about the version 2, which means using the regular MS chassis. And I think most of the people are waiting for this one more than the version 1, because the regular MS chassis is much more popular than the bumperless MS chassis. So this one, the version 2, most people can use it. And if people will ask me what's the difference between the version 1 and the version 2, which means the bumperless and the regular, the difference is the bumperless chassis, the front and the back, and the regular, the shape of the chassis is totally different. So which means the spot, the position you install the spring is gonna be different too. So that's why there is a version 2 come out, and it's gonna install the spring in different way. So that's what the video that is talking about for today's video. Okay, so let's see what parts and the stuff we need for this chassis. Okay, check it out. Okay, so first that we need is the spring, and the soft spring, the black one, and I have already 4 over there. Okay, and then it will be the sponge brake, and I already cut it in the shape that I need for using for the suspension chassis. And of course we're gonna using the 3mm sponge brake. And then we need the package of the motor and the label for the parts, and we just need the package. And then you can see the motor package is harder and the parts label is soft. And next will be chassis, and the front and the back, and the pencil and the ruler. And next will be the scissor, of course crazy glued, and we need all the screws and the 3mm spacers. And for this labels that I already cut it, and we need the tweezer and the pliers. And now I'm gonna show you about the size we have to cut for the parts label. So that's the size for the front, 10mm times 10mm, and the rear will be the 14mm times 6mm, and that's the shape and the size we have to cut. Okay, so what I do is I cut the shape, and I put the double-sided tape, and I fold it in half, and of course I put the double-sided tape in between, and then we just fold it in half, and the other side up and down I also put the double-sided tape, and to make sure it can stay on the chassis. Okay, and now I'm taking one of the small pieces. Sponge is for the front. Please remember that's the small size is for the front. And now I'm put it on the labels. And the reason why I'm putting the label than the sponge, because the label it's harder, And of course you can also using the case for the motor, like the label for the motor, you can using that as well, because that one is much more stronger. Then you only need to cut the size 10 millimeter times 10 millimeter. Then you don't have to cut the label like longer and fold in half to be to make a fit the size. So also that's another choice that you can using for the label for the motors. Okay, so as you can see, I put the sponge brake on top of the labels, then I take off the other side, then I put another sponge brake, okay, as you can see. Okay, so right now I'm ready to put the label and the sponge into the chassis, and the spot I put is between those two bolts. And of course because there is a hole in the chassis, so that's why I put the label, to make sure it's there's something at the bottom can be support the sponge brake and not gonna move, and that be able to hold the spring, because I don't want it when the spring is doing the movement and push the sponge brake out of the hole. And now we are applying a little bit crazy glue on top of the sponge brake on both sides. One thing you have to be careful is when you are installing the spring, try to install at the corner of the top bolts, the hole at the corner. The reason why we put it over there is because don't forget there is the wheel shaft that we have to install later. So we have to make a little bit space for the wheel shaft, otherwise the spring will touch the wheel shaft, and that's gonna be make the suspension not working properly. So as you can see, I put the spring on both sides right at the corner. Then we're gonna put that on the chassis. Oh yeah, don't forget we have to twist the lock. Same thing as the version 1, we have to twist the lock, make sure it's not locked the chassis, so it be able to make the movement like the suspensions. And one thing you have to remember, when you twisting the lock, you have to do it gently, little by little. Don't make it like just all at the once. You might break the chassis. Once you break the chassis, then you have to make another one. Then we're gonna put it on and see how it works. So every time when you twist it, you can put it on the chassis and see is that works properly. If that's not you didn't twist enough, you can twist a little bit more and see if that locked the chassis. So you can check every single time when you pressed it and see how it works. And there's one thing very important is when you done the everything, don't forget you have to apply the grease, and especially using the hard grease, and to put it on all the surface that's gonna touch between the chassis front and the center, and to make there's a less resistance for the chassis when it's doing the up and down, and there's nothing is gonna stuck the chassis, the movement. Also, don't forget put the grease on the front and the back as well when you finish all the springs, and also the inside of the four holes. You have to apply the hard grease as well, because even though you put the grease on the poles, but the inside of the holes there's still nothing. So you better to put a little bit of grease and to make and move smooth. So as you can see right now, it works pretty good, and there's pretty good delay for the chassis, because you like you apply the hard grease, then it will help your chassis is there's a pretty good delay for the suspensions. Of course, right now you can see I'm doing the rear part, so I just speed up a little bit because it's basically same thing except the size that we're doing for the sponge brake and the label is different, but all others is basically exactly same. And make sure the spring is not gonna touch the wheel shaft. And now we're gonna work on the rear part of the chassis. We are basically doing the same thing as the front, and don't forget to insert the 3mm spacer at the bottom of the chassis. And for the regular MS chassis, that we be able to using that border support, the bottom support for the MS chassis, especially for the regular MS chassis version. This one, we don't need the plastic 620 wheel bearing for the bottom support. And now you can see I installed the gears and the wheels, that you can see it runs okay, is front and the back is also moving. It means the gear is biting each other. And now we're gonna do some drop tests. And there's another angle for the drop test. Okay, so this is today's video, and next video will be the pulley cutter by using the broken chassis. Okay, so if you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you so much. See you next time.